Hello and welcome to the June edition of the National Advisory Group's How-To video series. This month, I'm happy to be speaking with Peter Rasmussen, who is the founder and CEO of Convenience and Energy Advisors. And he's someone who has decades of experience at retail with Wawa and Neon Markets. And now Peter is bringing his experience to CEA to help build and evolve brands from convenience and gasoline destinations to a more of a focus on high quality foods, upscale beverages, and a more memorable shopping experience. You can learn more about CEA at www.convenienceenergyadvisors.com. So before I welcome Peter, I do want to say that I'd like to thank our sponsor today, McLane, as they need no introduction. McLane is one of the leading wholesalers in the convenience market, and they are a big supporter of the National Advisory Group. So we're very happy to have them as a partner. So with that out of the way, Peter, hello and welcome. How are you?
Good. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me today. Doing very well. How about yourself?
Good. I'm doing well, thank you. And Peter was a featured speaker at our NAG conference in March. Very happy to have you there telling a little bit about Neon. And today I want to focus on some more macro trends in the convenience store industry and learn a little bit about what you're doing now. So if you wouldn't mind, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and your new venture at CEA?
Sure. So I am as nerdy as it gets in the convenience store world. So it's been over 20 years. Started as a kid at Sheetz, ringing the register and making, I believe they were called MTOs, they're subs there. Over time, we've gone to Wawa and managed a store for a number of years, did area manager for a number of years, was a part of the team that led the expansion in Florida. Big group of leadership made the efforts there, but I primarily led store operations and then later marketing for that division in the later years. And I spent the last couple of years doing a ground-up startup Neon Marketplace. Since then, I've launched a consulting firm, Convenience and Energy Advisors, where our focus is to help our industry evolve forward as we become more food-centric, as we have to diversify energy and evolve to the future.
Now, we got to meet at NAG store tour, I believe, in Jacksonville a number of years ago, and it really is impressive what Wawa was able to do in Florida. They really didn't miss a beat going from the mid-Atlantic right to Florida, had great brand recognition, great stores, great food. And I think the retailers on that tour are very, very impressed with how they didn't miss a beat. So that was kind of your core focus, right? Is bringing that brand recognition to Florida?
Yeah, absolutely. So, worked on the early days on the store operations side, where really we had 0 stores, and first built up the Orlando, Tampa, Fort Myers market. And as time went on, we recognized that there was a lot of differences from a marketing perspective. So ended up leading marketing for the state of Florida, working with the team at corporate to do all things to not only manage marketing aspects within Florida, but the many different markets, because as you know, it's a big state, and Jacksonville, Miami, Orlando, all very different.
So that begs the question, what attracted you to Neon? And tell us a little bit about what kind of input you had in the creative process of building this new and exciting brand.
Sure. So Wawa was a great run. I spent 17 years there, still have a lot of great friends there, and I'm thankful for the experience. However, a unique opportunity came about in the New England market. And essentially a small team got together, myself with the convenience store experience. And we also had some team members very experienced in real estate development in New England, the hospitality industry, and particularly hotels, as well as raising private equity. And what we recognized was that in the New England market, there was really great convenience stores. There was really great coffee, really great food, but it hadn't all been married together. And putting together the team that we did, we created and made a brand that we essentially called Neon Marketplace, where we created a destination where you can get high quality food, real brick oven pizza within the store. The atmosphere was nice. It felt like hospitality, felt like a place where you could eat. Well, there was also strong value delivered from a convenience perspective, from a fuel perspective, EV, and then also took it multi-channel through delivery services as well as drive-through, and the concept works. So definitely very proud of that. Still work closely with the team as a special consultant and advisor to their board as I launch my new venture.
How many stores are open to this point?
4 stores open today, and there should be a few more open later this year.
Very nice. And only something you could say in 2021 or 2022, I was supposed to meet you, but I had to go get a COVID test because that's the kind of world we live in right now, and I couldn't make it. So I'm going to get there to try that pizza real soon. I look forward to it.
Look forward to it. I'm glad you're okay.
So in building a brand has got to be, obviously it's a different process than being at Sheetz or Wawa, where they have very well-established brands and very well-established, plan to go to market. So what did you learn during this process? I'm sure a lot, but what sticks out?
Yeah, I could probably talk for an hour on this one because there's always a plan and then you're open, right? But I think I could probably summarize it in 4 key things. So I'll list those and then elaborate further. So, one, how much incredible talent can be undiscovered in people. 2, that, the labor force is out there for store operations. It's just about thinking differently. 3, in food service, design matters in store and online. It's not just the food, it's also the design and also technology. So I'll start with the first one. When you lead a startup, you have a smaller team and everybody wears a lot of hats. And I think one of the biggest wow factors for me in learnings was that, there is a lot of undiscovered potential in people that may never get seen when you work for a larger company where, scope of responsibilities make things departmentalized, right? So, I can give you a couple examples. We had a financial analyst who we brought on who then ended up leading price book, then learned how to code an NCR digital menu, and then pragmatically integrate that with PDI all in-house. And then from there, took on part of creative services and ultimately led the app project. And that's amazing. And she was a financial analyst. We had another person who was an accountant who came on, who then went on to lead consumer packaged goods as well as fuel. So it's really, really cool to give people opportunities like that and just see the, incredible things that they can achieve.
Was that growth organic? Did it just kind of evolve into them taking the ball and running with it, or did they step up and say, "I'll fill this need because we have this big need right now"?
Yeah, I mean, the culture of the team was wonderful, right? And as things came up, it was, who wants to try it? So some things would be appointed, and some projects you would say, this is incredibly boring and I never want to do that again. So I learned more about cash reconciliations than I ever want to know. But then other things just became incredibly interesting, and folks created a lot of passion around it. So that for me was incredible.
Okay.
I'll bring it into the stores, right? So, staffing has been a challenge for all of us for quite a long time, but I would say that, the solution is there. And, to speak to a few pieces on it, competitive wages, okay, a lot of people are doing that, and you can get competitive wages at a lot of places right now. But I think if you think different, you can take it even further. So complimentary beverages and a complimentary meal every shift. So to give people something to eat and give people nutrition goes a long way. And from a complimentary beverages perspective, we also weren't cheap with it. So if somebody wants a cup of coffee or a soda, that's fine. If they want 4 shots on their latte and extra caramel, then that's okay too. It's just about giving people respect. Flexible schedules. So, I think there was a time now hiring weekends, right? Or now hiring must-work holidays, right? And those days are long past us. Today, we have to compete with DoorDash. We never have to meet your boss or be in an Instagram model, right? There's all sorts of different ways to make money. So we hired a larger amount of people, and we're incredibly flexible from a scheduling perspective. We treat people with respect, and ultimately, that package costs something, right? So then you have to have an offset or you can't make any money. So that's where innovation comes into play. So you have higher wages, you bring on great people, but you have to do other things such as, just to give a few examples, bean to cup coffee saves a lot of labor. Self-checkout saves a lot of labor and gives your employees the opportunity to interact stronger with the customers. Simple things like extended cooler glides. And one of the most important things not to look past is the dynamic price book. So as cost changes come through on a daily basis, you have to keep up with it because your wage inflation isn't going away, it's only getting stronger. The next two pieces, food service. So, we talk a lot in an industry about how we need to bring more food into our business, and we need to sell food, and we need to try harder with food. And ultimately, it's really hard, right? Because you can have a simple food offer, and if you have a more advanced one, there's a labor charge to it. Early on in Neon, we made a couple acquisitions, and we put food service into it, and it did okay. But as we moved forward and we built our prototype stores, we put food into the design, and then it did incredible. We know we had great product. We know we had the right ambiance. And when you make your store look like a place where people want to eat, and then from an omni-channel perspective, when folks are looking at delivery platforms and looking at you online, and time is spent on the pictures looking delicious and craveable, then it works. So I think a big learning for me is it's not about just having quality, delicious food, but it has to look like a place where you'd want to eat and hang out. And the last piece I'd say is technology. So, if you do a startup or you start at a smaller retailer, even plug and play integration requires incredible project management. So, just recapping, it was, incredible talent at the corporate end, staffing from a store operations perspective, design and food service, as well as technology.
Sure. Well, a couple of follow-ups on that. I think one of the things that surprised me coming out of the NAG conference was you'd always heard that employees, that pay and wage was maybe second or third on their list. They wanted to be a part of a good company. They wanted to feel like their opinion mattered, wanted to feel valued. Coming out of NAG, it seemed that every retailer I spoke to said, yeah, it's all about money now. They're going for the highest wage. They're trying to get, because they have so many options, whether it's because of the likes of Amazon or just other fast food places offering $20 in the $20 an hour range. That's creating quite a bit of competition for employees. So I would imagine that the answer is probably it's probably a combination of valuing their opinion, showing them how much they're worth you, and paying well. I'm sure that's probably the solution.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, and probably even more so today as gas prices continue to rise. Because if you make 14, 15, 16 bucks an hour, do the math on the amount of hours you have to work to fill your tank. It's not easy.
Yeah, and that you and I offline kind of talked about the rise of the third-party delivery services. The price of gas has got to be pushing up the cost to have products delivered, I would imagine. We didn't talk about that, but something you just said triggered that. And just to follow up on what you were saying about food service, that whole theater and presentation of food service, it used to be that you were competing maybe with other convenience stores or a fast food market in your neighborhood. But now with these third parties, it's everybody. The customers on their phone, they can have the local pizza shop, Chinese, your store, Chipotle, I mean, whatever they want on a few taps in an hour or less. So you really have to have a good food program and a good presentation to attract them.
Yeah, John, I think you're spot on with that. And there's so much to learn about each platform, Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub, if you do alcohol delivery through Drizzly, and what the marketing drivers are, managing your star ratings for it, and then even food served in the store versus delivered. So, as an example, if you have flatbread pizza, that could taste delicious in store, but it's not dense enough. It's not going to be hot when you get home. So beyond just having, beautiful, safe, secure packaging, even the types of food that come through, because ultimately, even if it took a driver 40, 50 minutes to bring that to someone's home, the review counts on your business.
Yeah, see, and that's a great point too. If the driver drives too fast and the package shifts and the food gets all over, they're saying, hey, it's your store. They're calling you, not the driver, and saying it's your food. So that's a great point about the star rating. That's something I don't think I've ever discussed. So you really do need to be on these platforms responding to reviews and I mean, is that something you should be doing?
Yeah, you're spot on. Because I mean, I think, there's a lot of consumers that have a threshold as to how many stars, a business has to have. I know when I look at restaurants, if something's below a 4, I start to think, maybe I shouldn't. You just scroll to the next one. And, if you're in a major urban area, you can have hundreds of restaurants. So, it's just simply something that you have to do. And I think, our industry is very special in that, a lot of us that offer food service and offer convenience, to be able to put that on one ticket, that's really powerful. So, just something to consider for those that aren't on there today.
Okay. So we talked about what you learned. What surprised you during this process? Like you mentioned, you had, north of 20 years of experience in the industry, but this is your first time building a brand. There had to be something that surprised you. What jumped out at you?
Yeah. So, when I talked about food service and the element of design mattering, that was a big wow factor, right? That really impacted me a lot, to say that's a big piece for our industry, because you can't just shove food into a gas station. You got to make the experience special. But I would tell you, a lot of the other surprises just came from things that you wouldn't expect, because when you're with a larger organization, you have departments that just bake things out, year after year after year. So, things like you're trying to have a register installed and there's not a hole for the cord, and you need a mill worker. And I didn't even know what a mill worker was until this last year. Or, you think you have everything checked out with engineering and your delivery door doesn't have a ramp. So there were a lot of little intricate things like that the customer probably never noticed, but that was our list of 50, 60, or 150 headaches as we approach the opening.
That's a great learning experience. And that's part of that's part of the experience that you bring to convenience and energy advisors, and helping people that want to bring these brands to life, that they can bring you aboard and get your experience. So let's put on our let's look into our crystal ball and put on our futuristic hat here. This is just obviously a tricky time for convenience store retailers, and we kind of touched on this. Inflation is growing; it's threatening to get worse. Supply chain, there's all sorts of shortages, not just for the products that you put on your shelves, but the raw ingredients you need to make your pizza, to make your foods, have your food service program come alive. Gasoline and fossil fuels are under attack as we move more towards electric vehicles, which in turn could impact store visits. How do you deal with all this as a retailer, and how do you push forward and grow in this climate?
Yeah, I think this can be an exciting time for our industry, where we can really make a difference and come to the reality of where we are. So, I want to talk a little bit about the state of where we are and some things that we can do to hedge the loss that we're all seeing in gallons and in some cases margin. Oil demand peaked, I believe in 2019, and it's supply shortage that is driving up prices, and it's also driving up consumer preference for electric vehicles. And I think when you take a global look at this, one thing that shocked me is, let's take Saudi Arabia as an example, world's largest oil producer, 13% of the world's supply. They recently came out and they told the major airlines that we want to become a tourist destination. They want to have 100 million tourists a year by 2030, and they will fund airlines' losses who will do direct flights from key cities to Saudi Arabia, because they see that they can't just depend on oil in the future. That's really powerful. You take a look at Tesla. So, sales were up globally in May 60%, while other auto manufacturers were down or up just a hair or two. That's really powerful, and that's not something that we can take lightly. It's not just a phase that's going to pass. I'll be straightforward on EV. It's something that you have to get in for the long game. So the ROI is not great immediately, but a consideration is that others are getting into the space. So coffee shops, grocery stores, movie theaters, a lot of untraditional places can become the energy charging stations if we as an industry don't evolve. And I'd also encourage all retailers to watch funding opportunities for chargers. I mean, this year, federally, $5 billion was approved, being $1 billion over the next 5 years each year. states have until August 1st to apply for their allocation. And ultimately, that's going to be funding for retailers to put charging ports in and ultimately lower their cost to entry. And, I know figuring out how you monetize EV can be confusing. And, there's the Tesla model, but I'll speak to, if you install an EV charger on your own. So, if you're not utilizing Tesla, if you think about some of the basics, that the average kilowatt hour is about 10 and 12 cents. And it's about 30 to 50 cents per kilowatt hour that most charge customers. So there's your margin. Now, there's about 12 states currently where you can't charge by kilowatt hour. Instead, you charge for the parking space. But now it gets more interesting. The average person is charging for about 23 minutes. So now you have a captive audience of someone who's at your store for 23 minutes, and what do you do about it? So I'd add to that too, that, when you think about locations that could have a demand for it, it's not necessarily just your affluent neighborhoods of Teslas. It's what's off of a major highway. Where is there areas where there could be range anxiety, or where are there folks that have EV, but they may live in multifamily or other spots where they can't necessarily charge at home. So, when I think about fuel still matters, and it's going to matter for a long time. So that's a way to get customers to your store. EV is a way to get customers to your store. And then what about food service? So I'm going to talk broadly again for a second, but I promise you I'm going to bring it back to our industry. So, one shocking thing for me is, the last quarterly report that came out from Walmart showed that sales were up 3% year over year. So with inflated prices, probably flat from a product perspective, but inventories were up 33%. Now, more than half of Walmart's business is grocery, and you can only build so much grocery inventory. So do the math on how much inventory overage there is now on hard consumer goods as consumers are switching to necessities, that being, food service as well as fuel. And in Target, just the same. Target's inventories were up 42%. Grocery is not as much of the share, but that's another telling factor. And these are companies that have some of the greatest supply chain leadership in the world. So, I take those factors and I say, well, we sell fuel, and fuel matters for a long time. You can create your strategies with it. EV is an opportunity for us. The consumer's looking for value with food service, and we can provide that. I was at a fuel retailer recently that had an amazing inside food service offer. It was some of the best I've ever seen. It was a branded store, but when I was at the pump, there was no food service advertising. There wasn't a pump topper. There wasn't any video at the pump. There wasn't any audio at the pump. So it was a lost opportunity where if I didn't go in because, like yourself and many others, you probably look at every convenience store every time you go to one. I never would have known it. So, I just think right now is a time where we can't ignore the transition to EV, what's going to happen different with our industry. But it's a great time of opportunity and how we'll continue to profit with fuel, monetize EV, and translate growth to inside sales.
And wow, you made so many great points. And Walgreens has done a good job on the drugstore side of putting these these rapid charging stations in. And I think they're a big threat to get C-store customers, because you can get a gallon of milk at your local Walgreens. You can get snacks and immediate consumption items and charge your car. So though, if the local C-store doesn't have a charging station, they're forced to go there. It's not like they're choosing it. They're forced because they have no other options. All right, excellent. In terms now, and again, just to rehash, food service is going to continue to be the industry's big hook, right? I mean, tobacco, people aren't smoking as much. If fuel consumption goes down a little bit, people are always going to eat until the rise of the robots and the zombies, of course. But it's still a huge, huge hook, and there are still a lot of customers who don't necessarily want the third-party apps. They're definitely growing, but there are a lot of people, like you said, who the slice of pizza just doesn't taste the same when you're getting it delivered. So where do you see demand at stores going up or down? What do you anticipate, say, over the next couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, the growth for food service is there. You're spot on.
Mhm.
And I think we all just have to evolve to our individual market characteristics, and find the offer that works right for you as a retailer. So, at Neon Marketplace, we have brick oven pizza, but that's not right for everyone.
Mhm.
That's complex, but that was right for us. There could be more simple offers that could make sense just out of the turbo chef, but to be able to have quality product that's craveable in an atmosphere where people want to eat is really, really powerful. And I'd layer on that as we evolve to EV, it takes 23 minutes to charge. And let's say technology is going to advance, well, even half of that, 11 and a half minutes, well, you got to have a place where you want to hang out. You want to have a place where there's a clean bathroom. You want to have a place where, a female consumer will be comfortable, right? Being a dad, I want to have a place where I can take my 2-year-old to the bathroom and not afraid that he's going to touch everything, right? So those are all things that we just have to,
Sure.
think about and look at differently. And I just add, to your comment on apps, I think it goes both ways. So I think if you create an app, it has to be awesome. Like it has to be really, really good, because we have too many apps. And ultimately, if a consumer doesn't feel a good affinity to it, they're going to trash it. So despite the fees that an Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub may charge, I'd say that they're powerful. They're not going anywhere, because ultimately that's a way for someone to just say, "I'm hungry. Let me see where I want to eat."
Mhm.
So I think it's not something that we can ignore.
Absolutely. And just to go back on something you just said, if it goes down to say 12 minutes or 11 and a half to 12 minutes, the charge time, that is still in some cases 4 times greater than the average C-store visit, which is about 2.5 minutes. So that you're asking people to stick around 4 times longer than they usually have. Just to put it into context of, that is a change in the customer's day. They're used to getting in and out quick, so there better be something for them to do than kind of just stand there and stare at the candy rack for 10 an extra 10 minutes.
It's a
All right,
really
so
great point.
yeah, so tell us as we wrap up here, tell us a little bit more about CEA, how people can get in touch with you, your website. You want to reiterate your website address?
Sure. So www.convenienceandenergyadvisors.com. Be sure to check out our website, and you can reach me directly at peter@convenienceandenergyadvisors.com.
Great. Peter, thank you so much, not just for this, for all your help over the past year speaking at NAG and being a good partner for C-Store Decisions and NAG. Thanks for being our guest today. And
thank you so much, John. And thank you to you and to Convenience Store Decisions and NAG. So great organization. I'm happy to be a part of.
excellent. Thank you, Peter. I want to thank you all for tuning in, and I hope you join us for a future NAG how-to video. Have a good afternoon, everyone.